We
I'd
are
like to
ready.
welcome everybody to this meeting of the Sustainability Advisory Board on Monday, January 3rd. Brandon, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Eric DeGroot.
Here.
Pat Halquist.
Here.
Lisa Marone.
Here.
Vic Oliver.
Here.
Ken Osmond. Bob Peschel.
Here.
Brad Spambauer.
Here.
Aaron Wojciechowski. Michelle Mutzel.
Here.
Margie Davy.
Here. Okay, well, seeing no one here that is representing the public, we will skip the public comment and move on to the approval of minutes from December 6th meeting when we discussed all kinds of things and had the students talk to us about urban agriculture. Is there anyone who would like to move that we should accept those minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the last month's meeting minutes.
I second that. Pat. Okay, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes as written? Oh, nope, can't do that. Got to call the roll. Thank you, Brandon.
No problem. All right, so approval of the minutes. Bob made the motion, Pat seconded. If we just go here, we'll do the roll call. So Eric DeGroot.
Aye.
Pat Halquist. Are you muted, Pat?
Oh, sorry. No, I'm not.
All right, sounds good. Maybe it just as a technical error. Lisa Marone.
Aye.
Vic Oliver.
Aye.
Bob Peschel.
Aye.
Brad Spambauer.
Aye.
Michelle Mutzel.
Aye.
Margie Davy.
Aye.
Okay, minutes 8-0.
Okay, well then, let's move on to our one and only thing that we need to accomplish tonight. You all have the sheet that looks like this, I trust. I don't know if everybody printed that out or not, but I missed a lot of stuff when I was putting this together, and I got it to Brandon like 5 minutes before it needed to go out. So he didn't probably even have a chance to look it over. I was hoping that we could review everything on here, make sure that we have all the check marks in the right place and that we have everybody in the right place. I'm sorry, Ken's not here since he was on several of these things, but we'll just put him down for anything he's not on here for. So that'll work. So let's see, how's the easiest way to do this?
I would propose I could maybe open it up and share that screen, and then we could maybe just go through it and I could edit whatever we need to edit.
Sounds like a great plan. Thank you,
We
Brandon.
we won't be able to see each other like this, like the Brady Bunch. It'll be pictures on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want me to do that?
Yeah, that's a great
Just
idea.
give me a minute here while I open that.
Then I won't have to read everything and we'll all be on the same page. Item. And Brad, I'm going to throw the first thing on here to you anyway. It's about restaurant composting. And I believe that you and Ken are wanting to do some research on this. And I'm not real clear on what else. Did you have a chance to talk to him, or do you have any plans yourself as to what you would like the action on this to be?
Not yet. Ken reached out to Brian Langhoff, who manages the biogas program at the university, and myself, and we just haven't, with kind of end of the year and holidays and things, haven't had a chance to do that just yet. So I'm hoping we can do that in January for me, it will probably have to be the end of January because I'm going out of the country, I guess, sort of hopefully, on Saturday through the 25th. So I'll be gone basically the entire month because I'm co-leading a study abroad trip through the university.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, I
Are
mean,
you guys thinking of a subcommittee for that, or just the two of you working on it? Don't really know
um,
yet.
I think if there are others who are interested, we're certainly open to that or interested in that. But I think a good first step would be Ken and I can meet, and Brian from the university can join us, and we can kind of maybe use Ken's restaurant operations as a pilot site, and then I think we can expand it from there.
Okay. Okay, so then instead of putting any kind of completion target down for that, we'll just kind of wait and let you report on that as it progresses. Does that
Yeah,
sound?
I mean, I would say you could call it ongoing or sort of in progress. Yeah, we'll get started. We'll kick off here and get going pretty quick.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next one up is you and me, Pat. The municipal and citywide use of solar energy, including the group buy options and update website. And of course, Brandon has been helping a lot with that too. So we should have staff on there, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I know that some of what we needed to do as far as ordinance and code change has already been taken care of. We have it
Yeah.
down. Go ahead, Pat.
I think of those things, I'm not sure what the status of the website is yet in terms of updating, information for people interested in solar energy on their homes. So I know Brandon's been working on that. I'm not sure if there's a way we can help with that, or maybe more's been done. I haven't looked for it yet. I don't know.
No, nothing regarding solar has been updated on the city website yet.
Has been or has not been?
Has not been.
Is there a way we can help with that, or just it's a matter of time?
Yeah, honestly, December was pretty fragmented for me. The city required us to use up all our vacation time and not roll any over, so I had a bunch of days off in December.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's mainly just a matter of you getting time to work on it. There's not a way we can help really then.
Well, I actually did meet with Brad. I forget exactly what the date was on that, but Brad came to City Hall and we sat down and kind of went through a couple things and created some good target items that we can address and some low-hanging fruit that could be changed. So, I have all my notes from that meeting, and it's just a matter of implementing those things that we kind of brainstormed together.
Oh, okay, so Brad's helping too then with this. I don't know if we should put his name in then, or if he wants to.
Let's let Brad speak to that too. I see he has his hand up. Brad?
Yeah, yeah. I was actually going to go back to something, Margie, you said that kind of made me think of the previous point. But yes, I'm obviously happy to keep helping you all, and I can continue working with Brandon. And Brandon, whenever you kind of get a chance to getting around to that stuff and you want to run through it again, happy to do that. Whenever you're done with this point, I just wanted to touch on. So I'm noticing on this spreadsheet we sort of have ordinance and code change. Is that something that we kind of want to have as a goal as part of each of these, or just sort of if we think it fits?
I believe that that's something that we are going to find we need to do to make some of these happen, but I don't
Okay.
think it's applicable to everything.
Okay.
And
And
it certainly won't be so much when we get to the education section.
right. And the only reason I ask is part of me wonders in doing some kind of research and kind of digging, would it make sense, for thinking about the restaurant composting aspect, to maybe look into anything that would kind of relate to, I don't know, municipal waste code? Like could we require, right? Is there a future where we require that establishments that serve food, separate their compostable waste?
That makes sense. If, we'll wait and see when New York City does it, right?
Right.
But yes, we probably should review any ordinances or codes for anything we're doing, just to see if we are in the right ballpark with stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Just good to know.
Yeah, it never hurts, and sometimes it helps. Another thing that you reminded me of by saying that, Brad, is that we will be having the students again this semester. So if we see anything as we're going through that we might want to suggest to them to do their research on, I don't know how large the class is. I don't know how many topics we may be able to have them explore this next semester. But if we see anything that we think might be applicable for that, we should definitely make a note of that too. In fact, I'm just going to put another column on mine that says students, just in case we run across that. And I did also add another column to mine that says subcommittees, so that if we find that, and you don't have to do that, Brandon, but I'll give it to you afterwards if there's anything that we end up putting check marks in. But if there are any of these groups, like if we have Pat, Brad, Margie, and Brandon all working on solar energy and we wanted to all meet together, we would need to form a subcommittee, I believe, to make that happen. However, we won't really be totally clear on that until next month, after we have legal come in and explain to us about walking quorums. So,
And on that note, I did get confirmation today that that is still on. We are on their schedule for February, for our February meeting. So everybody
excellent,
can plan on
thank
that.
you. Okay.
Margie, really quick, and maybe I'm kind of out of order here, but did I confirm with you that Saltwise can come next month?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And I think that we had planned on that too. So
Excellent.
we actually have two things going on already for next month. Yeah. And you were going to reach out to city staff that might be involved with that too, right, Brad?
Yeah, I can still do that. Maybe Brandon can help me with
Or
that.
Brandon can, yeah. Once we get it confirmed, we'll be, and we do, I guess at this point, we'll want to make sure they're able to attend. Okay, well, going back to the solar energy, I don't know, Brandon, did you want to mention anything about, I mean, it's not going to be an ordinance and code change, but we do maybe have something that we want to write up for that, for future applications for grants and things.
Say this one more time. What was the question? Sorry.
That's okay. I don't know if we want to bring that up here or later, but I know you had mentioned something about looking at some possibilities for funding.
Oh,
Some,
sure.
so that we
Yeah, I
could,
mean, we can bring it up now. I mean, I guess a lot of these items are gonna potentially pertain to what I'm about to say, but particularly, so last year, if you remember, Brad had brought up the Office of Energy and Innovation grant, something like that. I can't remember the exact name of it. And so every year, for a number of years, that has been a grant that's available. And last year, if you remember, I looked into applying for that grant for getting electric vehicle charging stations at the new park pavilion. And at that time, it wasn't in the plan, and so we didn't apply for it. So this year, the activities changed that are available for this grant. So this year, like for instance, EVs wasn't on there, but you could do solar, and the grant was like $250,000 maximum. You could do a comprehensive energy study, and the grant was like $50,000. But what I found out this year that I did not know last year is that the majority, if not all, I think all of the applications that are submitted, they're submitted with matching funds. So we don't have any matching funds as of now. So the likelihood of us getting granted one of these currently is pretty slim, because we don't have any matching funds. So what SAB, so we had some internal conversations about this, and so in 2022, what SAB needs to really think about is proposing, and we'll figure out the logistics of this probably more in the February meeting from legal, how exactly to do this. But basically, like, say for instance, SAB wants to do a comprehensive energy study. Well, then we would ask council to set aside some funds in the capital improvement project budget, and then we would be able to use those funds, for instance, in the next grant cycle and say, okay, we have this much money set aside that we can match for this grant. And then we could potentially fill out an application next year if, you know, we were able to successfully secure some funding. Is that the update you were looking for, Margie?
That was it.
Okay.
Thank you. And now
Any
I'm in another
questions?
column that I called budgets, just for check marks.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Sorry, I feel like I keep raising my hand. So, that all sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for this group to kind of know what that process looks like in terms of if there are initiatives that we feel like need budget, when are those requests made, and can we make those requests? And I guess sort of what is a good request to make versus something that might be just so astronomically off base that we shouldn't make it. So those are good things to know. And another thing I'll mention about the EIGP through the Public Service Commission, so that grant program. While I hear what you're saying, Brandon, I mean, certainly I would bet that any individual that's applying that has matching funds, you know, is likely going to get funded, or right is going to look better for funding. I don't know that it's required. So for example, when we got it this last year for the heat connection project on campus that we're like actually now just starting, we put in a little bit of money, but it was not anywhere near match, and I know match is not required. So don't let that deter you. But what I will say is I hear what you're saying, and if you feel like we as maybe a group need to seek additional funding to be the match for a grant program like this, I'm happy to be involved with that or talk about that. I will also let you know that I've been having some energy planning conversations with some consultants for the university, and I think they are very interested in collaborations, and so perhaps there is a benefit there. I mean, and to use their own words, they said, you know, if some people sit in and listen and get something out of this, they are cool with that. The consultants are good with that. So I think there are some potential opportunities that may you know, be elucidated in the next couple of months here that just I can kind of keep you all aware of.
Great.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think the main thing for the group here to know and this to keep in mind and think about is that budgetary process. I don't know exactly what the month is, but let's just set a let's just say May of 2022. We should really focus in on something that we want to propose budget, you know, money set aside for something, a project, a goal here that we're talking about today. And
Because
hopefully,
as an advisory board, we don't have any kind of a budget, or we never have had. So we really have to make a specific proposal, and even in order to even get in the budget loop. I'm wondering, Bob, if you have anything in Aaron's absence here, I'm wondering if from a council perspective, you have anything that you know that we should be aware of, or suggestions.
Hold on. Sorry. Yes, so I think Brandon's right, kind of starting that, putting a timeline to that process is really important. I think it would definitely be unique of the Sustainability Advisory Board to be providing some budgetary requests, but not that unique in the sense that if there's something behind them, and it, you know, gets in with the mission and the value and the goals of the city, I think, you know, there's something really beneficial to that. So um, at the same point, I would say that, you know, let's just take the Parks Board for example. Um, Anything that the Parks Department pretty much proposes for budget enhancements, either in the budget or in the capital improvement plan, has to go past, you know, the Parks Board for their approval and their idea. And that's essentially what this is. Um, to me, it's just a unique thing because we've never thought about doing it in the many years that the board has been around. So,
We were actively discouraged at some points, although we were funded for a while for the ICLEI software. So for several years, actually, but
Mhm.
that was a very specific request, and the amount matched exactly with the need at that point. So also, while we have you, Bob, I wanted to ask if you wanted to, can we jump down? Can you scroll up just a little bit on there, Brandon? Yeah. The sustainable solutions to waste management, composting, recycling, biodigester. Because Bob's name's on there and I have a concern that he may need to leave before we get through that and the very last item on
yeah.
our thing. Is this, how does this differ? And I'm asking this of Brad, Bob, and Michelle, I guess. How does this differ from the restaurant composting? Do we need them both on there?
In in my opinion, probably not. Um, because what Brad was talking about and what I think both of those mean, and I didn't engage with anyone this in the last year on this either. So, but to me, they're fairly similar. Um, so
Okay, is that your take on it too, Brad?
I guess I would just maybe remove composting from this one. I mean, I think sustainable waste management is a pretty broad topic. I guess here again, you know, it perhaps makes sense to look at whatever kind of, I don't know, policy or code I guess exists about how the city, you know, kind of feels about waste and people dealing with their waste. I mean, to me, this could get at other things. I mean, I think this is a 30,000 foot view, and the restaurant composting is maybe a 5 or 10,000 foot view.
Okay, how about you, Michelle? Is that pretty much your read on it too? I see your hands up.
Hey, nobody said unmute yet, so it doesn't count. Yeah, I kind of see them as two different. It's more specific. You're right to say, you know, we're going to work with this restaurant thing, and I think that's a means to an end, right? Like we want to start in that spot to try to approach waste management in the city. It's not the only thing we could do. I know in the past we talked about plastics and single-use items, things like that. So if you want to explore anything else and have that out there as just a general look at that as a city, I think that's something, but it could be something different, but otherwise, you know, we could just keep it as the restaurant thing. But I know I had another point. I'm not going to remember it right now, but I'll raise my hand again if I think of it.
Okay, thanks. Back to you, Brad.
I think we could also this could potentially move into an education and out like under education and outreach. And I don't know if it makes sense for us to kind of be um, the creators of content or information, but perhaps we can kind of assemble some content information and figure out how to get it into the hands of the right people. I mean, one kind of specific example that I'm thinking of, I don't know if anyone has been to Ruby Owl recently, and this is not about Ruby Owl at all, but there are dumpsters kind of behind their building that are constantly overflowing. And they are, I mean, then there's just like trash and recycling everywhere. And I kind of gather that like multiple businesses and or residents living in that area are using these things, but just like it seems like there is like issues. I can also just tell by looking at the bins that like no one is really separating recycling from trash. So like things are kind of all just like mixed. So it just seems like a really, yeah, like it seems like the kind of thing that people often need like friendly reminders on. So maybe that's a way that we kind of start to tackle this issue. But I think that would be kind of getting good information to kind of the proper folks who ever kind of manage or oversee, you know, buildings downtown, right? And like that kind of thing.
That may also pertain to ordinance and code changes simply because I know that certain entities are totally exempt from recycling, like apartment buildings. So that, because if there's more than 4 families, I think it is, you could correct me on that, Brandon, if I'm wrong, but it's, they just don't have to. And schools don't have to, for example, you know, there's institutional use that doesn't have to, and I don't know if that pertains to restaurants too. So, let's go to Michelle, who has remembered what it was.
I have. So I think part of this too, my question is like obviously a lot of this is going to have to do with county stuff, right? So there's some things that we as a board cannot change because it goes into county territory with waste. So I mean, unless we could change this maybe to kind of a waste evaluation of the city and what, you know, we can do as a city to reduce waste, which would be, I think, separate from looking to work with restaurants to move more things to the biodigester. I mean, it's a small part of it, but if we wanted to do a wider look to see if there are other things we wanted to tackle, we could do that, or we could table this and come back to it after we've dealt with this other thing that we want to focus on.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, we could see where we're at with that. And just as a reminder, on the second page of this chart, close to the end, we do have reduced plastic usage, and that we had on there as education and outreach, having decided that that was the best way to deal with that previously, I believe. So I think all 3 of those are kind of going to fall in together. Pat.
I was just wondering, and it may have changed since I printed out, but we don't have a completion date for restaurant composting, whereas there's a 2022 completion date for the sustainable solutions. I'm wondering if you know, you should put 2022 for completion date for the restaurant composting and put ongoing for sustainable solutions.
Well, we should probably change sustainable solutions to ongoing for sure. I suppose makes sense. I don't know if we can put in a completion target for restaurant composting until they've had a chance to meet and just see what their action plan might be.
At least put ongoing or something, not leave it blank.
Yeah,
or...
we put ongoing in there right at the beginning, I think.
Oh, okay, I couldn't
But
see
it
it.
wasn't on this sheet, you're correct.
Right, yeah, I couldn't see that because you know, scrolled down, so I wasn't sure what it said. Okay.
Okay, Michelle?
Right. Not to keep raising my hand on the same point, but everything everyone's adding is helping with the brain flow here. I told Margie before this that my brain is not really working tonight, so I'm hoping I'm more than a warm body. So hopefully this proves that. Hopefully. We'll see. So I think we have to take careful look at too, like, are these actual action items? Because finding sustainable solutions to waste in the city is something that generally we want to do, right? It's part of our sustainability plan, but you know, we have specific things. It should be something specific and measurable that yes, we can check that off. That's good to go. If it's there just as like an asterisk, like we want to make sure that this is on our in our brains, that can be something, but I don't feel like it's a goal in itself necessarily.
You don't
As
feel
it's
that it
written.
may be actionable.
Right. I don't feel like as it's written right now, unless we wanted to change it as just like, you know, developing education for this or doing, I think there's needs to be something more specific about what we want to do with that. If it's something different besides just working on the restaurant composting or, finding education, putting education out there about plastics recycling or, maybe working with apartment buildings, see if we can send some education there about recycling and its benefits or, whatever. Whatever we want to do, we should, I think that's different than just putting that big thing out there that we can't really achieve.
What I'm kind of hearing is that what we probably need is to either plan this as something at a future meeting that we decide what we're going to do with, or that we make it a subcommittee and have the people with the specific interests in this meet together and decide, where you want to go from here with that. And I would tend to put the reduced plastic usage with it too, partially because it's a lot of the same people. I think that we have Vic on there. She wants to be involved because of the education and outreach. I'm thinking, Vic, there may be more to it than that.
Always here for the education and outreach.
I know, I love that. Okay, well, why don't we put those three together and make that a future discussion item as to how it's going to be, whether Brad and Ken have made an action plan by then for portions of it, or just how we want to go about that. We can talk about that later. But we know now that those three things we really want to do something with. There, a lot of people are interested, and we don't know what it is at this moment. The other thing that I wanted to get Bob's input on is the very last thing on page 2. It's community gardens. And we do have that down as on hold. Is that correct, do you think, Bob, at this point?
Yeah, Growing Oshkosh was going to move forward with creating some community gardens, but it was kind of decided that we were going to slow that down a little bit. So I guess what I'm working on is I'm still looking for individuals that are interested in starting up community gardens on those city plots that are available. But yeah, I would say it's on hold at the moment.
For the sustainability board?
Yep.
Okay, we will leave that there. Just leave that on hold. And
so before I go, I'd like to add one thing, or just add myself into an area. You can, wherever you see fit.
Yes, please. Where would you like to be?
Well, it kind of goes in line with the second notion of exploring municipal and citywide use of solar energy, but also on a broader thing. So my thought is to create avenues to encourage the school district as they're building new buildings to be encouraged to build them in environmentally friendly, sustainable ways, adding solar arrays where possible, utilizing solar arrays throughout the district. So, so my thought was just to create, like a general government collaborative, goal of working with, government entities to increase their sustainability in their buildings.
Excellent. Yes. And you are the perfect liaison for that, of course. And as I'm sure you're aware, we did do quite a bit with that, with mostly the school district, but definitely with our support when we were working with Oak Lawn back when Randy Johnston was still here and was the facilities manager, and he had served on our steering committee when we set up the green plan, as you'll recall. So I think you were part of that too, if I'm remembering correctly. Yep.
But I would say that there's that level of involvement and collaboration is something that's greatly needed right now in regards to those steps that we're taking. It's only, I would say that there are some elements of sustainability going into the new school, but I think there just needs to be greater reach and greater messaging related to that. So my hope is that we also reinvigorate the Energy and Efficiency Committee of the school district, which is made up of school district people, focus on energy, WPS, and some community individuals and board members. So, but the focus is on collaboration and building sustainable buildings.
Thank you, Bob. I would be very interested in working with you on that also, just so you're aware.
Okay.
Okay, I see both Pat and Brad have their hand up. I didn't see who went up first, so let's go with Pat.
I wanted to support Bob's comments because I think, especially with the new school buildings that are planned, there's great opportunities there. And I would be glad to help with that if there's any way I could.
Okay, and Brad?
I was just curious, Bob, about the idea of the community gardens on the RDA sites. Has this, like, what is the city's goal to sell those to someone to run community gardens? Has the city considered using them as sort of city-owned sites that people could, you know, rent or use kind of in the way that they do in, like, I'm thinking like in the UK where they have allotments and people, rent a piece of
Sure.
land. What is kind of what is the model that has been considered?
Sure. The model that's out there is one is that the RDA sites are for sale or they're for lease. So and they would either sell them at whatever the market prices, basic market prices for that plot of land, or the plans that we were creating is that they would rent them, lease them to growing Oshkosh for $1 a year. So, but the long-term intention is for them to be purchased and to be, used for community gardens. And the city is willing to support those entities that either lease or buy those plots of land, in regards to like helping them find resources, but they really want the organization to take on the management and organization of the community nature of the garden site. So, and the model that Growing Oshkosh was going to use was that one of them would be a satellite plot for Growing Oshkosh, and then the other ones were going to be neighborhood community gardens, where we would actually organize the neighbors, empower them to having a say in the overall day-to-day management and of everything of that, and then work on. Our model was to disperse the food back to the neighborhood with the growers that were from the neighborhood. So, so there, so does that answer your question, Brad?
Yeah, I think so.
So I really wanted it to be kind of neighborhood driven. That was the model that I was going to draw off of. The city was willing to help look for funds, through greater neighborhoods, capital improvement funds, down the line. There was lots of ways where the city was, where I felt they were going to be supportive of an organization to come in and make those growing gardens.
Okay, thank you. Wow, I just learned a whole bunch on that. Okay, well then is there anything else on here, Bob, that you want to bring to our attention?
No, I think that's all I need.
Okay.
And then I'm actually going to check out as well. So have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for attending.
All right.
Good night. Okay, well then going back to we're all the way down to number 3 if I put numbers on these. Sustainability plan update, I think we can just skip that because obviously that's ongoing all the time. If we look at it and go, oh, this is out of date, we need to fix it. The green infrastructure audit, which was part of the UWO collaboration and was really something that Stephen Wiley was working very much towards being an architect in addition to a planner. He had a very strong interest in this particular thing. It has kind of been on hold, and unless you know something I don't, Brandon, I think that probably just leaving that on hold for right now is a good plan, in that there are probably other things we can put our energy into more efficiently at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to leave it on there, that's fine. If you want to remove it, that's fine. I would have to probably text him and figure out exactly what staff's
Yeah,
role
I
was on
know.
that.
I know somewhere in your office there's a magic book that says green infrastructure audit on it, but
Okay.
um, if it came back to the office, which I kind of assume it did, let's just leave that on there for on hold, but we'll drop it way down to the bottom. I don't think we'll do anything with it this year, probably.
Okay.
Okay, moving on then to the EV phase-in inventory and replacement of traditional vehicles. I know that this is something that Eric has a strong interest in. I know that Pat has had some interest in this. I do. Is it something that we want to actively be pursuing right now? Or it has been ongoing in that we keep trying to get the inventory and have gotten it. But of course, it's constantly changing. Is there anybody here who is wanting this to be their focus for 2022?
Hi, Marius New I'd like to keep this as my focus for 2022. And along the same lines as he was talking about before with the infrastructure study of Oshkosh schools, I think like the city of Oshkosh as a whole should do like a sustainable audit for every, like they said, for every building, especially when new buildings are being built for like maximum efficiency. Because the infrastructure is going to be changing towards EV in the future, and not investing now is just going to cost us more in the long run.
Absolutely. So you're thinking for all municipal buildings or municipal vehicles, or fill me in a little bit more there, Eric. I'm not sure I caught it all.
Well, my basic idea for this whole project was not necessarily getting audit what we currently have, but more of a legislature proposal for the city to make the fleet managers buy hybrid or full EV when it's available.
Okay, so more of an ordinance and code change to look at that probably at this point then would be an action part of it.
Yes, yeah, more ordinance work up for the changing the fleet managers to buy those types of vehicles versus traditional fossil fuel.
Okay. Okay, well then I've got you down, Eric, on that also. And I put a check mark on ordinance and code change. And seeing no other hands up, I'm assuming that's the extent of the interest in that. And so,
I have
Eric,
something to say.
oh, and Brandon.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of brought this up, I think when Aaron first started. To me, what Eric just explained, again, in my opinion, falls in that realm of an ask from council in a budget scenario. Like, I think I had said the example I provided before. I read in an article that, the SAB asked council to set aside $5,000 a year in a fund or an account and let that grow. And then when it has enough in there, either a grant comes available or you can just buy it outright. If you're going to buy a new whatever type of vehicle and say it's $20,000 and an EV is $30,000, well, then we're going to use $10,000 from this fund to buy that EV, right? So that's kind of, I think that's the way that this should work, in my opinion. And as far as a comprehensive citywide audit, that would be something that, for instance, was available in that grant this year. And it was $50,000 grant that, the city could have put towards a consultant doing a comprehensive energy study, which would have included, all of the city municipal buildings, determining what their energy efficiencies were, if it was, if new lights would help, or if solar was reasonable, or all of those types of different things that an energy study would do for a building. So again, if we could set aside some funds and get some and use those as matching, we can hope that maybe next year or the year after something similar will be in that grant as an activity that's available for us to apply for.
The city had
Yeah.
actually undertaken that about 10 years ago, I want to say. I think it was called the McClintock study or something like that. It's in our sustainability plan. And they did come back with a lot of recommendations, and the city did take most of them. This is how all the rooms in City Hall and most other municipal buildings, I think, when you walk in, the lights come on. When you go to the drinking fountain, the water bottle portion is now there, all that sort of thing. But that's obviously very dated at this point, so it would be great to have a fund that could go towards that sort of thing.
Right, that is fine all with like the of a slush fund for EV, so to speak. But something that has to be considered past that is the overall cost of the life of maintaining that vehicle and the efficiency ratings on it, as opposed to just a straight ticket price. If one's 25,000, one's 30,000, yeah, the EV is more expensive, but over the course of the entire life of that, it has to be considered along with that. Because if we just want to go off straight ticket price, we're never really going to get anywhere then.
Well, exactly. And just the fact that you're not putting gas in a vehicle is going to make a huge difference for what its actual cost is. So yes, it has to be the, what do they call that? It's like the cost benefit analysis.
The ROI, the return on your investment.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so on this one, we want to say probably put a check mark in ordinance and code change, and then perhaps Eric and Brandon can take a look at that and see how we might accomplish something with that. Or no? Yes, maybe? Or we could talk about that later.
I'm up for it whenever you have the time.
Okay. Well, and I could work with you on that too, Eric. That's an interest of mine also. Okay, do we want to do anything with the reviewing the code on permeable pavers? We've been told that's probably an ordinance change. So I'm wondering, and it is showing on here as being on hold. I don't know if Brad or Vic, if you have anything that you wanted to add to that, but I guess I would be fine with just looking at the ordinance and deciding if there is a way that we can alter it so that it's more friendly to the permeable pavers, particularly in places like driveways.
Does that sound like something we could have the students do?
The students actually have done this in the past.
But did they look at the ordinance? I know they presented on like permeable pavers in general and like their benefits, but was it ordinance specific?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like an expansion on the previous students.
Right. That is a possibility. Okay, I put a check mark in the students column on that one. And that's probably a very good idea.
Yeah, so just sort of a
Like the
refresher on that
spring.
one. What the students found was that it is in those types of driveways are in the city code under a zoning district that doesn't exist.
Oh,
So again, that's it's in the zoning code as allowable in a certain district, an overlay district that has not yet been created. So
Let's just change that overlay district to be the whole city.
so again, like that's something that, you know, I don't know how much my involvement could be into looking into, you know, what part of that code was written that way and why. But you know, in any way I could help try to disseminate that information out, you know, I'm obviously available to do that. So
Well, Brandon, what does that mean? Does that mean that permeable pavers on driveways are allowable?
well, technically they are allowable in this overlay district, but there's no place in the city that this overlay district applies to. So it's like a fake district that hasn't been created yet.
It
So
means
again, I
it's
don't
in the
really know why
code,
it's in the
Brad.
code like that. What's
Hmm.
that?
I was part of the steering committee when that was created, and I think the reason it's in the code at all is because I was asking for permeable pavers, but they, because it's in a zone that doesn't actually exist, it was a way to get it in there and appease me without me really realizing that it wasn't gonna work. So I would look at that. I think, Brandon, I would really like to work on that when I think about it. Um, and if you could just send me the portion of the code the way it's written now, so that, because you can find that a lot more easily than I can. I'm pretty sure you got that big old black book that has it in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I mean, the last year's students, they really laid it out well. I mean, they dove into that deep. So that report that they did is actually, you know, it kind of
Okay, so
explains it out really well too. But yeah, I have no problem sending you it. I think it's called like, I don't know, it might be called like the traditional neighborhood overlay or something. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, I can send that to you as well.
So is a good place to start, I think like Vic is saying, and maybe Brandon, you're saying start with the last student group that really looked at this and then figure out what's next. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm recommending.
That makes sense.
yes, and I know we have it from before, so it was in the fall of 18, I believe, that they dealt with that, and then again in spring of 18. No, it would have been the other way around. Both fall and spring classes in 2018 did reports on that, so we need to look at those two places.
But then it was also done in spring of 2021 too.
It was again?
Yeah.
Oh, residential pervious pavement, you're right, holy schmoly. Well, I don't think we need to send it back to the students. They've given us plenty to work with, so we should just take it and run.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's take that off hold. Let's put that down for a completion target in 2022. How's that sound? Everybody okay with that?
Yes, sounds great.
Good. Let's skip Green City since that's just me on there at this point. We've already talked about sustainable solutions. Pat, I think that Carbon Fee and Dividend Act, because it is complete, we can totally take it off, right?
I agree with that.
Okay, deleting that column or that row. Energy analysis of cities' energy consumption. Brad, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, this is another thing that I think Brandon shared some information with me, and I have dropped the ball on it, so I need to get back to it.
That is something that you would still like to work on this year?
Yeah, and I think it might align. I think sort of what I was alluding to before about looking at a kind of high level at the university sort of energy planning, and then related to carbon action or climate action and resiliency. Excuse me, and maybe coming up with like an assessment and a plan, and thinking about how the city may benefit from that conversation as well.
So we really would like to create an action plan on that as far as a way to move forward. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just good to sort of know where you're starting from, right? Like what what does the city use in terms of energy? You can't cut what you don't measure. So you have to have a good measure of something to start with and then say, oh, we need to, right? I mean, and I think going back through that MIT report will be helpful as well. I think that was a really good way. And I know Brandon and I talked about that when we talked about the solar, the stuff on the solar website. I think the avenues are there. I think we need to help build the bridges between the pieces of road to get people from like point A to point B.
Okay. I'm suggesting with that one that maybe we flesh that out at a future meeting and see if we can get some, an action plan actually spelled out for it and working on it.
Yeah, let me once I get back, let me dig into that a little bit, and then maybe like at the March meeting, I could kind of just provide like some findings or something, and we could go from there.
That would be excellent.
Okay.
Yes. Ooh, a whole month off. I've got to confess, I'm a little envious. Um,
Well, I wouldn't say it's off.
well, true.
I'll be in the employ sort of 14, 20-year-olds who need to make sure that I'm shepherding them through the country of Belize appropriately.
You're right. What was I thinking? Never mind. Okay, well, I've got you down for March for future meeting and for an action plan sort of idea. Okay, moving on to investigate salt on roadways, alternatives, blah, blah. We have that listed as complete based on what the students had given us, I believe. Are you cool with that, Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I know. We were going on permeable pavement for quite some time, but yeah, and I know we've talked about salt a lot too, but I know we previously talked about that. That's what we're talking about, right? Or are we
Right,
going
I
back
think
to
we should take it
sustainable
off. I'm
solutions?
fine with that. Because we did get the full report both from the students and from, I forget who came in. One of the city staff came in and shared with us about that too, about how it was being handled. So,
Yeah,
okay,
unless I mean, because I know they're coming back though, or like Saltwise is coming there. So unless we wanted something else like to initiate some kind of like monitoring and or to have some kind of project with the university or someone else to kind of see where we're at to see if we want to get to a certain level or not get to a certain level and what we need to do for that. But I think it sounds like they're doing good practices already that we wanted. But it is still good, I think, to have Saltwise come in for education and for people to hear about it. For how a little goes a long way and the pre-treatments that they can do at home and things like that too.
Michelle,
and
you mentioned at the last meeting something about trying to measure the water salinity. So I don't know if you want to change this into something in that realm.
Well, I mean, I not at this point, but I know UW, I know that they were going to do just a sampling. There was going to be a quick event where they were going to go out and see where, take their own samples, but it was just like a informal kind of a thing. But that's kind of the ask. Do we really want to go down that road and have the city do anything different? Because from what I heard from the city and things I researched, we're already doing a lot of the practices that they recommended for the city level. So I think just, for private people and things like that, if we wanted to do an education campaign, we could, but this particular thing is checked off. It's just if we want to put anything else new for education, but that's not something that I feel like is worth focusing on at this time myself.
okay, and what do you think, Brad?
I agree with what Michelle said. I mean, I will say I sent a message the other day. I hope it was well received. To someone at the Oshkosh Public Library because I noticed they were putting salt out. This was actually probably maybe a week or so ago, but it was whenever we had that like bout of rain right before Christmas, I think. And I noticed they were like liberally salting the sidewalks around the library, and I'm like, it's 37 degrees, and tomorrow it's going to be 44 degrees, and I'm not really sure why all this salt is going out on the sidewalks. But here's some resources for you to learn about why oversalting is bad. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of need for consistent reminder in sort of every corner of the city. I mean, and I think about just stopping at a grocery store or whatever, and the parking lots are just, I mean, the pavement is just caked white with salt. Um, and it's a very serious issue. I mean, a teaspoon contaminates 25 gallons of water. I mean, that is not it happens very quickly, and I think a lot of people just don't know that and overuse. So
And it turns all our cars white.
and corrodes your cars, and eats away at our, just the issues are sort of insurmountable.
Michelle?
Yeah, and I do want to clarify that I think this, like, going at this from a city's, like, trying to get the city to change things at this point isn't necessarily what we need to do. But yeah, like, education, I think, would be what we need. And if we think, making something that I know we've thought about this before for other things, if it went out with like a water bill, if we could do something with that, because it is water quality that we're affecting with our salt use and things like that. So, I don't know if there's any education that we can do that way. If we wanted to put together some lit about it, that might be a good project too. But I know, yeah, we already had the students do a project on it and got some information. So we could pull from that and just create something to have on hand, both for our table, if we ever get back to the
Boardroom?
the summer,
State of the city.
state of the city, any event, really.
Sure.
Just think of a specific one, but I couldn't think of it. But yeah, farmers market, that's the one.
Yes.
Needs to regularly be there and, have stuff and talk to people. But I think it would be good to have something there to be able to educate people too.
I really like the idea about something going out with a water bill, because I agree, Michelle. I mean, I think the city, Public Works or whoever's out putting out stuff on the streets, right? Like, I think they're doing what they can, and I think they've made the changes in a lot of ways that they can make. Maybe there's some fine tuning, but I think they've done what they can do. I think other individuals now need the education and the reminder about over salt use.
I put an X under education and outreach, even though we don't still have that. But I think that we can add that to our, after we get down to education and outreach, we can move it down into there. But Brandon and I can work on renaming that a little bit, whether it's whatever we name it. I don't know, something. Is that okay? Pat?
Just, I think the idea of having information go out would be really helpful, because I know of, well, my church heavily salts their parking lot, and I'm not sure they have a good feel for how they can do it a little better. So, there's probably a lot of groups like that could use some help. So, the information.
Absolutely. And I understand that places that businesses and organizations, they don't want someone to slip and fall, so they're maybe doing this with the best intentions, but the abundance of caution that they're exhibiting may not be in the best interest of the environment. So,
and not only that, it stops being effective at a certain point. Throwing more on it isn't going to be more effective. That it's actually more effective if you do it. And I forget what the exact amount is, but it's it's a lot smaller level than you think. So the rest of it's just pollution for no reason.
Yes, and I didn't grow up around here. I grew up in the Rocky Mountains, and I didn't even know what salt on roadways was, because we sanded everything. And I mean, there are alternatives. Now, granted, the sand is also going to wash into the lake or whatever, but the point being there, it doesn't have to be salt to make it be effective. So, and you'd much rather buy a car from Colorado than you would Wisconsin because it won't corrode so fast. Yeah. Okay, moving on. You know, one thing that we have, that line we have there, Brandon, we should probably put urban agriculture in there because I totally forgot it. I totally left it off of here. And I think the only check mark that we need for that is probably under ordinance and code change.
You're talking about right here under energy analyst or
Yeah.
analysis.
You just really like that blank, don't you? And it's good because it separates.
I like that. Yes. What did you want me to put here? Ongoing or 2022 or?
Probably let's put 2022 so that see if we can get this done in a year. Ordinance and code change because it's abundantly clear that we do need to make that work with that. Wow, guys, we're already down to education and outreach. What do you think?
So for policy change, do we have something about the native plant? I know we were talking about making an ordinance change for native plants because right now you still can't have anything that's above a certain amount, regardless of what it is. So I would just want to put that on there. I know we say, you know, finalize native plant brochure and have native landscaping student project, but that is separate, I think, from us implementing the policy change that's been recommended by students and that we've been wanting for a while. I think it'd be good to have that on there.
So you're suggesting that that should be under government instead of education and outreach, or in addition to?
In addition, because the native plant brochure, those are two separate things. I see. Yes, we want to, I think we really need to change the ordinance so that when we give people this brochure and say, yep, you can do this, please do this, they're not getting harassed by their neighbors who don't know these are native plants and something they can grow, you know. So I really think changing that ordinance would be good as well. I think we can really work on both, but
So what I think I hear you suggesting is that we take the implement native landscaping student project and put that up under government, under urban agriculture, and put the ordinance and code change up there, and then keep the education and outreach for the finalized native plant brochure. Did I get that right?
I guess. I mean, it's not agriculture necessarily, but I mean, unless that's what you're referring to too, is being able to, you know, grow
No,
things
no.
that are.
I was referring to agriculture only because that's the last thing on our list up above, and I wanted it to go on the line right below that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant
Yeah. Yeah,
moving
so
it
that
on the
was
same row.
just for Brandon's use there.
Well, and I think we're still going to do a native plant project with the students, but I think that's going to be solely through the shoreline restoration group. So we don't have to worry about that element for this here. I think instead of implement native landscaping student project, it should say ordinance change for plant height or something like that for lawns, because that's what, do you know what I mean? Because right now the ordinance says that you can't have things, you can't grow plants that are above a certain amount.
Let's just call it, yeah, native landscaping ordinance, and we can, yeah, good one. Good, Brandon. So, and that should happen during this year too, yeah. Okay, let me ask quickly, Lisa, the Sustainable Oshkosh webpage. Did you have a chance to look at that at all? I know it was a busy month. And if you didn't,
Yeah,
it's fine.
I did. All of the links are fixed except for one under the waste and recycling. It's the Oshkosh Free Cycle. It just doesn't take you anywhere. Brandon, I can send you the screenshot of that. And then additionally, I was thinking, going off what Brad said earlier in the meeting, discussing like content for the sustainability page, like who's in charge of that. I'd be willing to look at other cities' SAB board websites to see like what type of content they have, and maybe just having more content on our website, posting that to the public would help get some of our messaging across.
That makes sense to me, and that would be awesome if you could do that. And then we can also, as information is added, we could put that on Facebook to draw people's attention to it, right, Brandon? In your spare time?
Yeah, I mean, posting stuff on Facebook doesn't take time. It's just a matter of finding the content. So that's
Okay,
the
it'll
part
be
that
free
takes, that's the
content.
part that's takes time.
Okay,
Like I read an article today in Rolling Stone about Antarctica and how it's melting and all this stuff, and I was like, should I post that on the page? I don't know, it's irrelevant.
well,
I'm not like a social media guru, so I don't really know what the right things to say when it comes. Like I could just share it, and then it just shares. I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything about it. But I
I
don't know.
think
I don't know
that
if
maybe
that's.
you and Vic probably need to have a short discussion about that, because she's pretty good at that. And then,
I'm open to all the help I can get when it comes to social media. So please, anybody,
Or I could have access to the Facebook page again, and that would
that'd be
solve a
great.
lot of our problems.
That would be wonderful.
that would make Brandon happy too, I'm sure.
Oh man.
And maybe Vic, as you see things, you might want to shoot them to Brandon just for him to, I know I see things too, and I don't think to send them to you with the intent of them going on our page, Brandon. So I'll try to be more conscious of that too. I belong to a lot of listservs that do have a lot of information that we could say is pertinent to Oshkosh, because we're either doing it and that's awesome, or we're not doing it and we ought to be, so we need awareness. So, okay, we'll try and I'll do better to give you more
Like I said, I need all the help I can get regarding this SAB page. I'm not very savvy when it comes to this social media stuff. So
Okay. Facebook content to Brandon. If it's on my sheet, of course it'll happen. Got it. Okay, coordinate SAB's facilitation of rain barrel workshop. That's still ongoing, and we just need to leave it on there, I think, because it can happen whenever, right?
But we don't
Oh,
have any more
Brandon.
barrels.
What?
We have no more barrels currently stored anywhere. Just
I
something
do
to
know
keep
that.
in mind.
If we find we are in need of some, I think that within about 30 days, I can restock us.
Okay.
Okay, but we
Just
can,
something to be conscious of.
thank you for pointing that out, and I'll touch base with you on that, and we can discuss that, Vic, okay?
All good.
Okay, barrels. Create annual report. Guess what, Brandon? That's you. And you have clear until like March 8th or something to say all the wonderful things that we did last year. And that's why we have these wonderful sheets to go by. Isn't that neat?
I'll be ready. I got all my notes.
Okay, thank you. And we continue our support of Menominee Park, obviously, and that's just us giving it support and airtime, right, Michelle? Saying, please, people go help with this if you're interested. And then people just flow to you to help pull weeds. Am I right?
Yeah, that's part of it. And we do report to the Parks Board as well. So I think it's good for the SAB to see what we're doing besides just being an avenue for volunteers, but also, keeping up to date with the project and things like that as well, for educational purposes. And if we would need to talk about anything as a board for that.
Super. Okay, we'll just leave that as is then. And that's probably where we're at with the education programs at this point too, Vic, am I right? I mean, it's kind of on a by need basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to do programming when meeting in person is obviously still heavily discouraged at this time. So yeah, I mean, this category has also contained like the Facebook posting and stuff historically. So I will try and do better this year. Last year was not my best for content creation. But yeah, just as another PSA, anytime anyone has anything that they want or just information that they think could make a good post, you can always just send it to me and I can, in my spare time, organize it and then send it off to be added. But yeah, content is helpful. It is the time consuming part of things.
Okay, well, I'll try to do better, Brandon, to help you. And to be fair, Vic, you've been pretty busy this year too, so totally understandable. Okay, going on to the next page, recycling and cleanup, where we had talked about things like having bins at the farmers market and city parks. We've got that put on hold. Waster management, boy, who typed this? I think that was maybe me. I say let's just keep that on hold at this point unless anyone else really is dying to work on this. Okay, seeing no hands, we'll move right along. The Environmental Leadership Award, again, that'll be coming up in March, in time for, and that's basically done. Reduce plastic use, we decided to, or I kind of decided and nobody objected, that we were going to kind of roll that in with the restaurant composting and the sustainable solutions to waste management. So we'll kind of redo this to put those together and have that for the next time get it sent out. Without Ken here, I would say we're just going to leave the sister city idea on hold, and we covered community gardens. Do you know what that means? Unless anybody has anything new that you would like to add to this sheet tonight. And it's quite possible that things were forgotten on here. That would be on me if they were. I went through the minutes and through my notes from last time, and that's what I came up with, but I still managed to forget things. So, okay, seeing no hands, I'm assuming we did okay on it. Then I would suggest we move on to agenda items for a future meeting. And that would be in February, we want to have legal and Saltwise, both of which I believe we have confirmed. In March, if he's ready, and it's, Brad, if you can't get to this, that's okay. But for right now, we're going to put down the business about the energy analysis for the city and just kind of fleshing that out a little bit. Plus whatever else we come up with by March.
Sounds good.
Okay, I see that both Pat and Michelle have their hands up. Pat.
I'd really like to see a discussion of the ordinance change on native landscaping discussed in February, and if not February, in March. It'd be nice to have something happening before the summer.
On ordinance change for what?
Native landscaping.
Oh, okay.
It'd be nice to have the change made or improvement made before when people start planting.
That's a very good point.
Gardens.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm putting that down. Quite honestly, it's probably not going to get through council and all the other everything early in the spring, but we can certainly get started on it, and that's the best we can do. So I've got that written down. Michelle?
Well, now Pat has me thinking. If we're, is
no.
it just a discussion item about it, or are we talking about bringing a resolution forward, or what do we need to do first for February that we want to put as an action item for the native plant ordinance?
I looked at the student proposal. For the most part, I'm in agreement with it. There are some, apparently the staff involved with it didn't feel a need for change, so I don't know if we need to consult with them before the meeting to see if there's a way to modify what the students proposed to make it more acceptable to them. And I think it's more than just a height change. I think there's an issue with defining better what's meant by a weed, you know, and the whole issue of whether if you do any kind of native planting, you need to get permission from the city, or if it would be a matter of how large a planting you're doing. I think, you know, some cities do it like if it's more than half of your property that's not occupied by a building, then you need to get a specific designation, otherwise you don't. You know, so if somebody just wants to do a small native plant garden, do they really need to get permission of the city? The way the ordinance is written now, they probably should, unless they want to risk having a neighbor complain and having it mowed down on them, you know. So it's
And getting fined. So there's a financial element too.
right, and getting fined. Yeah, I think I know of at least one new business in town where it was, and this is kind of secondhand, but it was proposed that they do some native planting, and they said no, city ordinances would not allow it. And I'm not sure that's what we want to be happening, you know. And, you know, so and I
Well,
guess
I think before we can bring in
May or June, you know, some of the prep work is done in the fall for people who are planning on doing planting the following spring. So, you know, if we at least get it through, you know, in time for that, you know, I think part of the problem with the current ordinance is the lack of clarity, you know. You know, it's not everything has to be mowed to 8 inches just if it's a weed or a noxious weed, but it's not well defined what's meant by that, you know, so.
Well, maybe, do you think, Pat, you and I is it possible for me and Pat to meet then to talk about this and kind of see if we can define our ask, and then go to the people who, I mean, last time say, you know, no, we're good, so that we can see how we can move forward. Does that sound?
It's certainly possible for the two of you to work together on this. And I would recommend researching some other municipalities, especially locally, you know,
I
like
think the student report did that.
Yep, they already did all the background work for this.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
basically we
got
need to
that
put,
done.
well,
Okay.
so what I wanted was to be able to put a resolution together to change the ordinance. That's really what I think the goal is for me, because the research has already been done. I think we just have to construct together what we want it to look like and what we think should
I
happen.
think what we're going to want to do is actually write a proposed ordinance that we can approve through our board and then send it through whatever process we're going to learn about next month, which would be so nice to have that already. And I suspect that it means that we're going to have to write the ordinance, and then it will probably go to the city manager and go to every department that might want to weigh in on that, and then come back to us, and then eventually make its way to council. But yes, is that your feeling too, Brandon, that we probably should just go ahead and work on writing an ordinance?
I mean, so like the noxious weed ordinance is not something that I directly work with. So I'm not super knowledgeable on what the wording is in those ordinances, and I haven't read that particular report.
Is
But
there
what
a way that you could direct us just to and maybe it's already in that student report, but are there other portions of the zoning code or that are going to, or
the noxious weed ordinance is in chapter 17, which is the nuisance ordinance. So it's in a completely different chapter of the municipal code. It's not in the zoning code. So that's one side of it. The native planting side of it, I think, would be like in the landscaping section of the zoning code. And I don't, again, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the landscaping section all states regarding native plantings.
I know that there is a chart in the zoning code that actually recommends certain native plants for new construction and the landscaping and everything. So there's a list of at least a partial list of what is recommended, which maybe we could start with too.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think the
Michelle
parts
and
that's
Pat are on the right track. Using the report sounds like it's pretty well done. I would just, if you guys have some ideas of what you're wanting, you can just start with me. Run them through me, and I can give you my input, and we can try to formulate something that makes sense maybe, and then from there, again, after next month's meeting, we're gonna have a better idea of this process. So when it comes to a wanted ordinance change.
So is this something that Michelle and I could get, talk about and then pass it on to Brandon and then maybe have it on the March agenda? Is that a possibility?
That seems like a better timeline in my opinion, just because we won't know kind of what we're going to be trying to accomplish in February. We should maybe wait to get that presentation from legal.
Okay.
But are we
Um,
gonna list it? Do we have to list it as an action item? Like, can we list it as an action item for it? Or do we have to have it as a discussion first in March?
Again, my understanding prior to whatever council had just approved, because like in December at the council meeting, they approved new rules for boards and commissions.
Oh, okay.
Was that, yes, it had to be a discussion item first.
Well,
So
then
can-
we'll discuss it
for the
in
opportunity for
February,
the
and then we
public.
could put we could
Right.
have a discussion on it in February, and then to get it going, and then you could bring something forward in March, right?
That, I'd like that, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a long discussion, but we could, besides the student proposal, which specifically was the nuisance ordinance that they wanted changed, we could look into the other parts of the code or the ordinances that would affect native landscaping and see if, if it's really just the code change and the nuisance thing. I mean, I guess the way it's currently written, I can see how people would be concerned that they'd put time and effort and money into a native plant garden and then have it mowed down on them, and so then they'd be reluctant to do that,
Okay, well, I have it down then to add that to February for discussion.
Okay.
And then plan to move on it a little further in March after you two have had a chance to kind of play with it a little bit and know what the rules are. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else that we'd like to put on a future agenda, whether it be February, March, April, May, June, whenever? In the future? Okay, well, with that, our next meeting will be on Monday, February 7th. And I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Thank you,
That's
Vic.
Michelle
Thank you,
second.
Michelle. I'm not gonna say Brandon's going to call the roll.
What was it, Vic and Michelle?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so roll to adjourn.
Yes.
Eric DeGroot,
Aye.
Pat Helquest,
Hi.
Lisa Marone,
Aye.
Vic Oliver,
Aye.
Bob's gone, Brad Spambauer,
Aye.
Michelle Mutzel,
Aye.
and Margie Davy.
Hi. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight.
Okay,
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Bye.
Thanks.
bye.
Bye.